So we're going to start working on paper macheing this guy, but in case you're curious as to how I constructed him, we have galvanized electric fence wire. That's his base. He's made out of this stuff. You just bend it, shape it however you want to use it, and then to tape it together we have Scotch shipping tape, and it's reinforced so it has little strips of fabric through here, if you will. And I like using it on the dispenser here. You can buy skinnier rolls because they're usually small, much smaller strips in this that you're going to use, but because of the serrated edge on the dispenser, you can just, rip off as much as you want and leave yourself out a stockpile of pieces to work with. And they shouldn't be terribly long because sometimes if you have small spaces, it's hard to wind long pieces through there. You want to get the initial piece in there to hold it in place, hold the wires together, and then reinforce it with some extra tape after you're done with that initial bit. But in some areas I actually created a joint to lock the pieces together. Just a little curlicue so that I could hook it around, and then it was much easier to tape together. Also, make sure you have the right size pliers. I use the needle nose because I like making the little curls, but I started off using these and my hands were very, very sore. So make sure you have the proper size with a good grip for the handle there, and I just cut all of my wire with the clippers inside the pliers. There you go. So after you have finished taping the wire frame together, you won't need this anymore, the reinforced tape. But you're going to switch over to just clear tape. Absolutely clear, because the paper mache, which you're going to do on this later, requires a surface to adhere to. So that's what the clear tape is. It's your surface. And you just wrap it around. I initially thought I was going to, try and make nice long pieces in certain angles, and it's actually a lot more difficult to wrap these pieces than you would imagine. So in the beginning I started off real careful around all the edges, and then towards the end it was just like, alright, get it covered, because it's not really going to be the focus. Once it's covered with the tape and you paper mache it, it's going to be glowing, pardon me, it's going to be glowing and lit up because you're going to insert lights on the inside, and I haven't had any instruction on that yet. In fact, the only instruction I had for this was my mom went to a workshop for Full Moon down at Art Prize and watched what the instructor was doing and had him give her some supplies to send home, and she told me how to do it. So this is all based on what she told me how to do, based on what he told her what to do. No, I didn't do too bad, I don't think, and I'm interested to see how it's going to end up turning out. He's balanced very well. I'm going to have him hanging by the tail so that he can fly. He'll be dangling on a string, and the string will be attached to a bamboo stick. So I don't really need to worry about him sitting like on the table here, because that's really not what he's meant to do. He's meant to hang. And I didn't pre-plan him. I just sort of started working with the wire, and he evolved into this. There was no preemptive sketches or anything. I'm one that doesn't work from sketches because usually what happens is I'll put a lot of effort into the sketch, and I love what the sketch looks like, but then when I go to make the actual piece, it never ends up looking quite like the sketch. So I just skip the sketch and roll with, the materials and see how they bend and fold and work, and whatever happens, happens. This is what happened this time. But I'm thinking that for Art Prize next year, I would like to make a few more dragons. Maybe a lot more. So I guess I'm going to have to start soon. And maybe even a little bit bigger one. We'll see where that goes. But I'm about to start the paper mache now. So you've seen all the other materials. And now, let me go get what we need for this. Tissue paper, like you would, wrap gifts with. Elmer's glue. And a wide paintbrush with shorter bristles. This says 2.5 inches. I guess that's what I'm using. Now, I have to go verify with her what I'm supposed to be doing, but you're supposed to, I guess, dilute this down with water so you make more like a paint. It's paper mache, so I never did it as a kid because I didn't like the texture, but we're going to make a paint with the glue, cut this into sections, and then slowly start covering the dragon. And then you only need to cover it enough, one layer so that all the clear is coated over, but then we're going to let them dry and see what happens after that. I think I might wait to put the lights in until I get a chance to go down and talk with the guy in person, but we'll see what happens. So we take our tissue paper and we cut it into squares. Just little squares that you can start working with there. Now, the solution with the glue, she said it's not a lot of water, just enough that you can paint with it. So you don't want to dilute it too much, you don't want to make it too wet. I have no idea how much we're going to need. I'm just going to kind of go a little overboard, I think, for now. Because of all the materials she sent home with me, or he sent home with her for me, I went through everything he gave me and I had to go get just a little bit more of everything. So I'm going to make sure I make this a little bit bigger than I would have done. Or make a little bit more of it. That was just a little bit of water. So we've got Elmer's glue with water. That was just a little bit of water and it looks like we can paint with it, so this is the part I don't like. Never liked squishy things, but I'm doing it anyway. I suppose dunking it's not the right way to do it, so don't do that, because if we're painting with it, then it should be, maybe I paint him a little bit, add a strip, trial and error. Here we go. Let me make a little place to stick this. Ooh, and I'll just wipe him down because glue. And the people that are out there that have done paper mache before are probably going, that's not how you do that. But since I've not done it before, you're just going to have to grin and bear it with me. Hopefully it'll turn out a-okay in the end. The texture's not so bad anymore. I don't know, when I was a kid it just was disgusting to me. So I went out of my way to avoid that particular art project in school. Sorry to my teachers. So it's just a lot of gluing and pressing the tissue down. Didn't get enough glue there. I'm even going to use my finger. But if you get gotta be careful because the paper will pull apart pretty easy. So, maybe I'll just add a little bit more water. That might be bad. We'll find out. But I don't want this drying out on me. I can feel that already getting sticky on my fingers. I'm not going to record all of this, just enough to give you guys an idea of what I'm doing. It should be pretty interesting when all is said and done. I thought about like coloring him, but since he's turned out to be a little bit more work than I had anticipated, and there's a time crunch because the full moon parade is this Saturday. I don't know how long it'll take me to do, you know, what I would like to do. And I'd hate to mess him up now and not have him for the parade. So I'm just gonna hang off on the coloring. And work with what I've got. I mean, I think he's gonna look pretty cool as a white dragon. I happen to like, there is a certain dragon in a book that I like that is white. Well, maybe that's what I should have named this guy. I called him Mooney for the full moon, but maybe I should have called him Ruth. For those of you that are familiar with Anne McCaffrey's work, Pern, there was a little white dragon that was born, and he was an anomaly. He wasn't supposed to hatch, but his rider couldn't leave the egg alone and helped him out of his shell. And so there was the only white dragon ever born on Pern. I started reading that series when I was, 7th grade. 13 or 14, somewhere in there. Yeah, you gotta watch, because if you get it too wet, the fabric, the tissue will want to, if you touch it and it's too wet, it kind of comes up. Yeah. And make sure you don't do more than one piece at a time, like I just did. But it peeled off easily enough.